So when did you like know you wanted to be a SEAL and what did you do to make that happen?
That's kind of an interesting story because back in 2000, right around 2000, was when I was on this journey to find what am I going to do with my life. I was going to college and I had a pretty unique upbringing. I was extremely poor. There was nothing really that was set for me. And while I was in college, I was in Army ROTC at the time because
Mhm.
I thought, oh, cool, I can go and wear a uniform and do something with my life. At that time, there wasn't a lot of books or media. Like at that point in my life, I was so consumed with I wanted to play football. In college, it was starting to be very obvious that I was not going to the NFL. How bad I wanted it, it just wasn't going to happen. There wasn't anything I could grab a hold of to say, this is what I want to go do. And so Army ROTC had given me some sort of structure, and it was cool because I got to wear the uniform. And I saw the way that people would look at you while you're wearing a uniform around a college campus. I went to these things called Ranger Challenges, and it was really cool because everybody worked together to do like a one rope bridge where you crossed across a creek with just a rope and some tools. And you got to carry things. I got to learn how to shoot guns, which I loved just because I grew up in the country and we shot guns. And so I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. Well, then I ran into a certain situation where I saw like there's good leaders and there's bad leaders. And I saw a guy talk down to somebody that was very degrading and demeaning. And I kind of was like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I knew I wanted to do something in the military because I loved the uniform. I was studying criminal justice. I wanted something in a uniform because I felt like a part of a team. I was seeking some sort of acceptance into a community that was looked at very favorably. In all honesty, I had no idea what a Navy SEAL was. I went down to what I was going to join the Marines, and the Marine office was actually closed. It's probably the only time that it was closed. And the door next to it was the Navy recruiting office. So I was like, well, I don't know much about the Navy. I grew up in Oklahoma, never saw a Navy person, never saw the ocean. So I'll walk in and see what they have to offer. Open the door, and I kind of told them what I was looking for. I was like, I really want to be part of a team. You know, I've played sports my whole life. This is kind of what I'm looking for. And they put on this, it was a VHS. So that shows how old one, the video was and how old I am, I guess, as I'm getting. They put it into the VCR and it was like the oldest Navy SEAL video. It was all grainy and it was probably the one JFK approved back when he helped construct the SEAL teams. And there's these guys coming out of the submarines and they're swimming, they're running through what now is Coronado Buds training. I didn't know that back then. And it just looked really interesting to me. And there's the SEAL teams, but he kept trying to pitch to me like the Navy and this is a journey. You get to go see all these great places, the beach and all this. And I'm like, oh, that does sound pretty cool. Never been to the beach before. The video stopped and I said, well, what is that? And he's like, that's the SEAL teams. I said, well, what is a Navy SEAL? And they kind of chuckled. They didn't take me seriously, like, you probably won't make it. Nobody makes it through buds. And we'll get into like why that kind of irked me a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's what I want to do. And they're like, well, you can't do that because you've got to go through this physical screening. You got to do all these things. And I was like, well, how do I do it? I want to sign up. And that's really all I needed to hear. I didn't know anything about it. I'd never read a Dick Marcinko book. I never read any of the Navy SEAL. There wasn't anything out there. I don't even think. No, Charlie Sheen had made the movie, and I had never seen any of these things that are very common today. That was the beginning of my journey of okay, I got to find something to do. So it's not that I, like a lot of people today, had all this material that they could say, I want to go do this. It was just simply me trying to find something to do with my life. And I walked into that office that day and decided that, well, I guess here I go. I'm going to go join the Navy. And I did. I went to the Delayed Entry Program and had 6 months to prepare because I had to finish out my college that I was going into debt trying to accomplish. And so I finished that out, joined February of 2001 and off to the races.
Two questions I want to know. One is if they would have been like, you're never gonna make it, would you have like if they would have been like, oh yeah, you can do that, would it have been a totally different mind, like you would have been like, oh, okay. Or was it like because they said you can't, you were like, no, I definitely got to do it now. And number two, how was your swimming? You never seen an ocean before.
Oh, that is a fantastic question. My swimming was out of fear. As anybody, like I used to go to the lakes and go tubing and stuff like that, but it was never any structure, never been a swim course. So the swimming was what you would expect it to be. It was terrible. I was not a good swimmer. I remember being in the lake, and if I got out too far, I would get scared, and then I'd have to come back because I was like, oh, my feet can't touch. I'm coming back. But going back to your question, that if they would have said, oh yeah, you can totally do this, I don't know. It did something to me, like when, I guess it's because of, being a punk 19, 20-year-old kid, of you being told you can't do this. Well, most kids are going to, I think of what my kids do today. If I tell them not to do something, especially my daughter, she's going to go do it. It's like I gave them the idea to go do it. So I think that that may have been kind of at that point in my life. I was still a little immature, and probably now that somebody tells me, oh, you can't do something, well, one, I'm already interested. And two, you tell me not to go touch that hot surface. Oh, well, I'm going to go touch that hot surface. And that's kind of, I think, what it is. So I don't know if they would have said, yeah, you could do it, if that would have changed my mind. Because once I committed to it, I was committed. Because again, I was looking for structure. I was looking for something to make of myself, because I felt that I wasn't accomplishing anything in the current path that I was on. So yes, I think I still would have done it, but I wouldn't have had the same fire that started that day. The fire grew, but that day was the match that started the fire.